Good morning, everyone. This is Reverend Charlotte. I'm conscious that there are some people who follow our Facebook pages who aren't necessarily part of our congregation, so might not know who I am. If that applies to anyone here, I am the Vicar of Christ Church in Maldgreen, St James in Rawthorpe, and also chaplain to the University of Huddersfield. Now, many of you will know that I'm actually signed off myself at the moment because unfortunately my husband is battling terminal cancer, so I'm off work as I try to support him. But at the same time, I'm conscious that these are unprecedented times with the coronavirus, or COVID-19 as you prefer to call it, and I really thought it was important to come on to do a video and to speak to you, to say hello. So many of you will by now know that according to both government guidance and also the Archbishop's directives, that public gathered worship in all of our churches is currently suspended. That doesn't mean that it's finishing forever. It means that it is an effort to protect, particularly those of us in society who are likely to be particularly vulnerable to the coronavirus, and therefore to limit large gatherings of people. So for the avoidance of any doubt, that does apply to Christchurch Maldgreen and also to St James Rawthorpe. Until such time as we receive different guidance, there will be no public or gathered worship on Sundays or on any other day until we are told it is safe to do so once again. But despite that fact, that doesn't mean that church actually stops. And that might sound strange when I say that, but this is actually an opportunity for us to do church differently, in a sense, because we might not be able to gather together as a community as we normally would do, but we can still pray. We can still pray for each other, for our communities, for those who are scared of this virus and the potential implications on themselves or on those we love. We can also pray for those who are very much on the front line of battling this, particularly those who work in our emergency services and in our health service, who are really quite sacrificially continuing to go to work and doing so in impossible circumstances, impossible situations. Please do pray for them. There will inevitably be some people who are afraid. There will also be people who think that these measures are over the top and unnecessary. But I'd like to encourage you to remember, if you are in that category, that ultimately this is about looking after those who are the most vulnerable. So there are some people who will be much more vulnerable to very serious illnesses as a result of this coronavirus. Many of us will get it, and many of us will simply experience the symptoms of a heavy cold. But there are others for whom this would be very serious indeed. So even if you don't necessarily understand why these measures have been put in place, I would encourage you to remember that it is actually part of our Christian faith and part of our Christian duty to look after those who are more vulnerable than ourselves. And if that means that for some of us we have to follow quarantine measures that we find to be restrictive, onerous, difficult, it's still important that we do so because we are following the best guidance that we have available with the information that the government and the medical profession are doing their best to give us. As I said a few minutes ago, not gathering in worship on Sundays doesn't mean that we stop being a church. So as much as I encourage you to pray for one another, I would also encourage you, whenever possible, to access some of the many, many resources that are available online. Over the coming days and weeks, whenever it's possible, I or Reverend Margaret will be posting links on the church website, on the church Facebook pages, with different suggestions of whether it's music to listen to, whether it's prayers to engage with, whether it's scriptures to consider. I'm not going to guarantee that we're going to do it every day, particularly as I'm off, but we will do what we can to support you. And equally, I would also like to encourage you with the fact that we are still here. If there is an emergency that you need to speak to Reverend Margaret, to myself, or to a member of the pastoral team, please do get in touch. It might not necessarily be as easy for us to come and visit you as it normally would be, but we can still be at the end of a phone, at the end of a message, a text message, an email, whatever the case may be. And even if we aren't in touch with you personally and directly, please know that I, Reverend Margaret, and all the members of the churches are still praying for you. And some of you might appreciate that, some of you might not, but it's part of who we are and it's part of what we do. And we will continue to pray for those who gather as part of our congregations and also those who are part of our communities and the wider world. And I would encourage you to do the same. Please do take care of yourselves and keep praying. Keep worshipping in the best way that you know possible, and whenever it is possible safely to do so. Please do keep looking out for those who are vulnerable in our society. If there is any way that you can safely help those around you, please do so. But obviously, follow all the guidance that is available and keep yourself safe. We will continue, as I say, to post links, information, and options at any point that we can. May God bless you and keep all of you safe in the coming days, weeks, and months.